So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. I am going to read the recognition of Indigenous peoples and lands. London and Middlesex Community Housing provides housing on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lune, Haywak, and Attawandaron. We acknowledge the local First Nations communities in this area, the territory of the Chippewa of the Thames, the Oneida of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. Today, the City of London and Middlesex County is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. So after that, I'm going to assume that everyone has reviewed the agenda. So I do need a motion and seconder to complete the agenda, accept and complete the agenda. Moved by Sarah, seconded by Hadley. Any questions or comments? All in favor then? That matter is passed. I'm not aware of any disclosures of interest unless someone has any. No. All right. So we need approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Again, I'm going to assume that people have reviewed them. They're from November 28th, 2024. So I need a mover and seconder to accept those. Moved by Greg, seconded by Sarah. All those in favor? Thank you. Gary, did you have a question?
I was just moving it.
Did anybody else lose audio and video?
Yeah, I
did,
did
okay.
too.
Okay.
A lot.
Hopefully they'll reconnect. I just notified Melissa, so hopefully we'll be reinstated soon.
Well, we can have our own little meeting.
Perfect. What's the agenda, Colin?
Colin's tired and it's been a long day.
Well, if it makes you feel any better. Okay, Paul's just texting me to making me aware that they'll reinstate Zoom very soon. But yes, I'm flying out to Vancouver tomorrow morning at 6
Yeah.
to go watch some rugby. So I have to leave the house at 1 to pick somebody up at 2 to be at the airport at 4. So it's still a long day to go for me.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Paul has asked us to leave the meeting and then to rejoin in about 5 minutes time. I think they're going to reboot the Zoom. So if everybody could just leave and then reconnect again, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Process of government.
We were on approval of minutes, and I just think we'll re-vote on that. All in favor of the previous minutes? Thank you very much. It says we have a communication from the City of London, but we do not, I understand. No delegations, no consent agenda items. So the first report under reports and business is staff report 2025-01, which is a CEO report, and I'll turn things over to Paul.
Thank you, and through the chair, just there is a fulsome package here, and most of the areas of interest are covered by staff. Just two areas that are sort of emerging as discussion points that we wanted to share with the board. One, in that we're doing a tariff risk assessment to see what the current political and economic kind of climate, how it may impact LMCH. So we'll bring that to the next Finance and Audit Risk Committee. There's just things that there's a risk of things like appliances being tariffed and things like that that are sort of, we consume a high volume of those. So just want to make sure we have sort of a little bit of inventory, and then based on what we're seeing and what's happening, we will be able to formulate a plan that reduces our risk, whether that manages costs or just maybe defers projects if there's uncertainty. So just let you know we're working on that, and just we are aware of the City of London procurement assessment where they're looking at buying Canadian, and that's something that will also form part of our sort of ongoing procurement approach, just to be aligned with that area. The other thing just to bring awareness of is the sort of just what's happening at the landlord tenant board for us as a landlord. I think we've, you know, we're very diligent in what we try to bring to the landlord tenant board. We work with tenants to avoid getting to a point where they actually we file an application against it. We try to avoid that. And in the cases that we do file applications, in most of our cases, we work closely with tenants to avoid eviction if we can and support their success. So, you know, we are challenged at any time we are moving to eviction. whether it's by advocates, legal clinics, or even just some of the internal challenges we have in sort of moving forward with this work. So we're going to go through a series of things over the course of this year. The first is to put an eviction prevention policy in place for tenants with arrears and for behavioral issues to set the standard of what behaviors or what steps staff will take through an eviction process to make sure we apply a uniform standard. We do apply a really rigorous standard, but we don't have it documented in a policy. So we'll bring that to the board for approval. We're going to be more with community agencies and legal stakeholders just to sort of better understand if they're having challenges with us, make sure they know what steps we're taking in the process to sort of see if we can sort of get alignment there to resolve some issues sooner. And there are some matters that we're seeing in the landlord tenant board rulings where we're challenged with the, I guess, the direction from landlord tenant board where they seem to be overstepping and making us as a landlord more accountable for the tenant's personal life than we want to be. So, you know, making sure they're telling us to do things like provide garbage bags and garbage bins and things like that. But as a landlord, like it's not a big overstep, but that's totally not the role of the landlord. So while we'll do those things to support successful tenancies and help people clean up their unit, things like that, it's problematic to have those things in a legal order that sets a precedent that that's what we need to do for tenants. So there's a few minor things like that coming through that we're sort of taking appeal steps on the landlord tenant board just to try to set a better line. And we find, you know, at the same time, legal clinics and other advocates are asking us to go way beyond where we see our role as a landlord, like asking us to help a client apply for and receive a benefit. We can refer them to somebody who can help them do that, but that is not our role as a landlord. So we're just trying to navigate those areas so that we can sort of work collaboratively with the external partners and the legal clinics and everything else, but know where that line is that where we have to stop. So that work will continue through 2025. So those are the two areas that bring to the board's attention, and happy to take questions.
All right, so let's get a mover and seconder for the report, and then we'll go to questions. Moved by Gary, seconded by the Deputy Mayor Lewis. So questions on Paul's report? Paul, what I want to ask, I'm really puzzled by the idea that when you say garbage bins, are you saying that the sort of garbage containers in their units, like?
Yeah, it's sort of like things that
The one I would put under my sink?
Yeah, those types of things. So I mean, it's a really minor example, but it is one of those things that, you know, that's not our role. That's sort of assistance for daily living type of thing where they may need to work with a home care provider or cleaning service or something like that. So they're taking care of their own unit. That's not something that we should be doing as a landlord.
But that shows a fundamental lack of knowledge about the act and the jurisdiction under the act, which is somewhat concerning. And then to have lawyers from legal clinics coming in, not even understanding what kind of housing we're offering, that we're not supportive housing,
No, and I think where the disconnect with some of the community agencies and the legal clinics is they're really advocating for that tenant to maintain their housing, and they see that thing they're asking for is essential for them to do, and there's really nobody else to do it. So they're trying to get us to be on board to do that work to help save the tenancy. So I don't think, you know, I don't think there's a whole lot of malicious stuff, but I think you're right on the adjudicators. There has been quite a journey in the landlord tenant board over the last 4 years since COVID hit, in terms of wait times, lack of adjudicators, wait times for decisions, and all those things. And I think while we now have more adjudicators, there are a lot of new ones. So I think that, and you know, I'm not an expert in that area, but there's a lot of concern being raised by staff on some of the decisions and the frameworks that are sort of being presented to them.
Okay, thanks. Anything further? All right, all those in favor? That matter is passed. So now we're going to go to the committee reports. Just the reports for information, just committee chairs, we can present those as a package after you've reviewed after you've gone over them briefly. The ones for approval, I'll leave to your thoughts, committee chairs, as to whether you want to present them also as a group. Staff's here available to ask questions, but again, just we had long committee meetings. Both of the committee meetings were fairly long, and everything was gone through in pretty heavy detail. So I'm going to turn things over to Greg to do the financial reports.
Great, thank you, Chair. As Chair indicated, we had a long meeting Tuesday last week, probably over 2 hours, so we'll try and summarize that and cover off 3 reports here. So there were 6 reports received for information. I'll give you a quick overview of those. First was the audit plan report from the auditors, KPMG. They presented that's pages 15 to 45 in your report package. Focus this year on the audit will be on reassessing the asset retirement obligation, which was new last year. There's also 3 new public accounting standards that are going to be applied. As before, key risk areas, the examination of management controls, which will be tested in the audit. Audit materiality is established at 900,000, but the audit is designed to test for 5% of that level or items over 45,000. And field work is to take place starting in April and May. The goal to present draft financial statements to the Finance Audit Risk Committee mid-May and to the board of May 22nd meeting. Second report presented for information was from Finance Director Rob Cunnington. Highlights of work underway under financial reporting, the risk management, procurement, and IT areas. A couple of things to note. Organization is reporting to the city separately on Sylvan and 122 baseline. And so Rob has begun a review into purchasing processes. On the risk management side, there's an update pending on the SURF premiums from the city, which we defined SURF as the Self-Insured Reserve Fund. Premiums are expected to be the same as 2024. On the procurement side, key points, just the rollout of the new Rogers cell phone contract is going well. And on the IT side, completed the phone system upgrade. Third report received was from John Krill, Director of Asset Renewal. That was the asset renewal report. The first part of that, we were dealing with the regeneration plan, and the consultant that or LMCH is engaged. Herco spoke to the progress on the regeneration plan. Their data collection is underway, and modeling is coming up. Now, in that report, I think you're also looking for approval on the work plan, project work plan for Herco from the board. Is that correct?
No, we didn't recommend or request
Okay.
approval. It's just for presentation.
Just for presentation. Thank you for clarifying. The other part of the asset renewal was John and his team's continued work with the city on the asset management plan and updating the BFA database for the city buildings, or for the LMCH buildings with the city. And coming to the board for March, I guess we'll be dealing with the issue of what level of funding we're going to get from the city for capital repair and upgrades. We are seeking to get sufficient funding to achieve a good level of building condition. While preliminary meetings so far with the cities, they're kind of leaning towards a fair condition. Hopefully we can direct them towards keeping our buildings in a better state. Fourth report was also from John, the CMHC update for Q4. Just to recap, it's spending funded by the 40 million loan commitment with CMHC signed in 2021. High level to date, 14.3 million has been funded for accessibility and energy savings improvements. The major focus on the accessibility so far is the barrier-free modifications. Target is to renovate 416 units, 107 units are done to date to the end of January. The energy savings focus so far has funded the fridge replacement and the furnace replacements, which are complete, and upcoming focus will be looking on bathroom fixture and water heater replacements. Fifth report was the KPI report from CEO Paul Chisholm. Covered vacancy scorecard, work order scorecard, arrears and subsidies, HR and pest control. There's actually quite a lengthy package or lengthy report in your package. I guess a couple of quick highlights on the vacancy side. Vacancies holding at 2.6%, which is within our threshold of 3% or low. On the pest control, the number of units being treated is down 4% to 23%. This is reflecting the results of having the second vendor getting a higher percentage of active units being treated. The last report was the report on sector memberships and conferences, also from CEO Paul Chisholm. LMCH does participate at the local, provincial, and national level in the local housing corporation group led by Housing Services Corporation, the Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association, and Housing Partnership Canada. We're fortunate that Paul does sit on the board for both the provincial and federal organizations. This is a great opportunity for LMCH to collaborate and learn and grow from the other organizations in there. Costs on this, the Ontario Conference membership fees, it is the most expensive at $20,000 annually, plus we will send board members and senior management to the conference. Other organizations a little bit less costly, about $5,000 a year. Okay, that's all I got.
All right, so you're prepared to move the reports for information. Is somebody prepared to second them? Seconded by Hadley. So at this point in time, staff is here. So any questions arising just out of these reports or comments? Mayor Grantham?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I just want to refer to the last report, the sector memberships in conferences, and I'm supportive of the need and why we need to attend them, but I'm also Chair, cognizant of the current climate around conferences, you know, and that I just wonder, did the finance committee have any discussion about the cost of sending that number of people specifically to OMFA? Again, I'm supportive, but I think we should be aware of the public and the political climate about a number of people going to a conference. So I guess my question is this: did you discuss it in the finance committee, and does the board feel it's appropriate to send 4 to 6 people? I mean, you extrapolate that to $20,000, and other boards have, you know, been in the limelight for spending that amount of money. So I guess that is my first. I don't know if there's a question in there, Chair, but I guess it would be to Greg as the chair of that committee, whether or not they discussed it.
Go ahead. So, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mayor Grantham. Yes, we did discuss that, and there was discussion around the appropriateness of that and how do we monitor and make sure it is appropriate at a level, and at the level that's been proposed here. We're comfortable at that. This is by no means any extravagant level of expense, and that certainly the OMPHA is a very valuable conference to attend and engage with colleagues and other organizations there. So there was an explicit discussion about it, and I think the committee is satisfied that this is in a reasonable level of expenditure, wouldn't be seen as untowards by anybody outside the organization.
Yeah, if I could just add on to that, I mean, I could speak to the conference that we go to as members of the board. So we send 2 board members per year to one conference. So we don't send the whole board or even make it available to the entire board, so, which is fairly reasonable. The conference itself, I went there this year. I didn't find it to be an extravagant conference from. I don't wanna say, I've been, in another capacity, I've been to conferences that they were quite fancy, I would say. I've also been to, as a school board trustee, they one year sent us to the Royal York Hotel in Toronto, and we ourselves said we thought that was too extravagant. For what we needed, and we were cognizant of that. So, I mean, I am comfortable with it. I understand your point. But I think, is there value in the conference? I think it's largely a work-related conference. There weren't any events that were extravagant or of that nature that I'm aware of. There was a small reception after the conference, and the bar was a cash bar. So I just didn't find it to be one of those overly extravagant conferences, and I'm certainly cognizant of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Chair, thank you, and I'm accepting of Greg's answer. That's what I was looking for, Chair, was that it was discussed at length and that it was found to be worthwhile, so I'm okay with those explanations.
Yeah, and thank you for asking for that, because I think we should provide that. I'm completely in favor of us providing that kind of clarity on what we're doing. I think that's a good idea. And if people are unhappy with that, I'd be happy to hear from them and make the necessary adjustments. So it's totally open. The other thing I would just remind members of the board is, we don't plan on sending the same people every year. So Mayor Grantham and I went in 2024, so I would be hopeful that some, two people who haven't gone before will go to the conference in 2025, which I think is in Toronto. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't think there was value in the conference. I think there is value in the conference, from that point of view. So that's, when we go through that process, that'll be the ask. And Mayor Grantham and I, for instance, won't try to take those spots. And I don't know who else has gone, but if other people have gone, I'm sure they'll be happy to see if people who haven't gone before will have that chance. And I think it would be good. So thanks for that question. Very much appreciated.
Yep.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
No, and through the chair, I just want to say I went the first year. I don't know if anyone else went, but I saw value in it. I thought it was good, just networking in terms of what other community housing providers are doing. There's a lot of value in it. So for those who haven't gone, I would recommend it. It's very insightful, provides a lot of good.
Yeah, I just as an example, last year, or the one in Ottawa, I purposely went up to speak to the head of Toronto Housing. Because I thought it was important that he know who I was, and he already knew who Paul was, he knew who he was. He said we have regular meetings and contact, so I think that's valuable. And they're also doing interesting things, as is Ottawa. In terms of doing things, and I think that in itself is hugely valuable, so that's great. The only other thing I wanted to mention on the director asset renewal, one of the questions I actually asked was, what do you expect from the board? This is Harco, is it?
From the regeneration.
From the regeneration. Harco
yes.
is the name of the company. So the head person said, well, what I want to hear from the board in March is, where do you see us going? What direction do you think you are going to go as an organization? Do you want to keep doing sort of exactly what you're doing, RGI? Do you have plans to go in a different area? Because their entire planning will be, I think, directed to what we as a board want to do firstly at a high level. So I think it'll be really useful to have that meeting with them. I think it's really important. And I think we do have sort of a board philosophy of maintaining our RGI while adding market rent to be more responsible fiscally for our colleagues from the city who sit on our board, but also offering housing. So they seemed, both of them seemed very open to meeting with the board. So I'm hoping that's the meeting where we have a meeting in the afternoon and then the board meeting. So I think it's really important that all of us come out to that one. That'll be important. So that's all I have. Anything further? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's approved. Thanks, Greg. So Greg, we'll go to the report
And
for
Chair, sorry to
Oh.
interrupt. I have to exit the meeting now. Councillor Plaza is here to take me to
Councillor Bloza. Any other
Yeah.
council? Counselor
Counselor
Hilliard?
Hillier, the escort has arrived to take me away, so.
Those people both have the goods on me, so I'm not gonna insult them. Yeah, see, they both, yeah, see? Have a good evening, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks
Good
for
night.
coming. Bye. All right, so we'll go to the finance reports for approval. Greg, I'll let you handle that if you want.
Okay, John, I may lean on you a little bit here, but I will introduce the projects as well. So the first report for approval was on the capital projects. And here John and his team have had the opportunity finally to do a deep dive into all of the ongoing projects that LMCH has undertaken at all the properties. And through this, they've identified a number of capital projects that are essentially in limbo or canceled or incomplete, where there's funding been allocated for that. I should also add, some of those projects were completed in the phase of another project that had an approval. So there did exist a duplicate approval in the system and funding for that. So the gist of the capital projects is to take the money from the projects that no longer need them because they've been completed or canceled and allocate them to, projects where we need them that are ongoing. I don't know if
That's a better summary than I gave at the committee.
Okay, so that's the gist of the capital projects. The amount of money we're talking there, I think is 650,000. We're moving from the allocated of the completed or canceled projects over to the ongoing projects or new projects.
If I may,
Yeah.
that, so 650 from, is the, canceled projects, the net left over, and we're asking for approval to move that to general contingency, and the other portion of projects that were completed in the 2021 period, there was a net of 485,000 left over. We're also asking that be reallocated to general contingency, and from there follows then other approval requests to move monies out of general contingency projects that need them. So it's sort of a two-pronged approach. And if I could as well, part of the exercise here, approval of the 27 canceled projects, it is just along the lines of proper appropriate governance. We found that they were canceled and there was no paper trail to set the board approved. Shouldn't be me that just goes out, I'm just going to cancel that project. So what we did was, of the 39 we discovered canceled, we did a risk assessment of them, and 27 were identified as no or low risk. So yeah, it makes sense to cancel. And the others were identified in between a medium to high risk. So either reopen them, carry on, or defer to look at them at a better light with more information and make a better decision on.
Are you gonna do them all, or you want to do them one at a time?
No, we're gonna do them all,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
but that's just the first report.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know whether you were gonna, I didn't know whether you were gonna ask for a vote on that one, but you're gonna go do them all, right?
I think that's more expedient.
It is, it
Okay.
is.
Second report for approval is just a contract award for the demolition of the chimneys at the Allen Rush site. That's pretty straightforward. The award, do you have the dollar figure there, John?
Yep, it's a award to Image Masonry for 114,000 and almost 12,000 Pretium Engineering. And it does require a bit of a reallocation from a canceled project as well to meet budget.
And it was the winning bidder there was significantly lower than the others.
That's correct.
And so that's a good deal all around. Next report, it's another construction contract award for the relocation of the Albert Street laundry room. The laundry room is currently in the basement. We have sort of ongoing tenant safety and vandalism issues with that. I understand lost a lot of copper wire there that's been ripped out and gone. Making it safer for the tenants to move to the main floor, also making it more secure, more highly visible location. The award there is approximately $50,000.
150,000, that's correct, yeah. And we're also looking to reallocate 200,000 from a Simcoe roof job. It's a 2024 job, which we're getting underway this year, and that was over budgeted by 200,000. So we're looking to reallocate to make good on the Albert water relocation.
Then the last report was the update on reimagine Southdale. Included in there is looking into the pre-construction costs for the phase 2 that you're looking for approval on. We did have some discussion here on the security deposit required by the city, which subsequent to the Finance Audit and Risk Committee meeting, the city has waived that deposit requirement, which makes sense in that we are an entity of the city. So that brought the cost down from 700,000 change to about 298 is where we're sitting now. The significant portion of that is cost for London Hydro to come in and do their work to set up the electrical services for the next building. And that was 157,000, which is just over half of that cost. The balance, the rest of that is consultant costs and buyouts of the water heaters and other contracts associated with the site, the townhouses to be demolished. So looking for approval for expenditure there. I would like to move all of those approvals at once.
Thank you very much. Seconder for that? Sarah will second that. So we'll open it up for questions or comments on those, that group of reports. Sarah?
Well, the capital projects, you have 4 that you are going to reopen, right?
Yes, yeah, for that's in appendix C.
And what are the next steps for these 4?
So we've reopened them because they're high to medium risk, and so they go into the pipeline of projects. We're assigning them to PMs to carry forward and deliver.
Because 2 of them, they don't even have budget. Yeah.
That is correct. So we're going to the next step will be to understand what the scope of work is to deliver them completely, and then a subsequent FAR committee, and then the board will ask for reallocation of dollars from general contingency to fund those projects.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? They're being done, then this is a vote to approve. All in favor? Thank you very much, and thank you, Greg, for the presentation. It's helpful to have the explanation of the reports. So we'll go to the People Service and Housing Committee reports. Mayor Grantham, you wanna?
Thank you, Chair. I think my audio is still on. The first are the I was gonna count the number. I own quite a few reports or information. I'm just gonna summarize them this way, Chair, and people can ask questions. To me, these are important. I mention this all the time in our committee meeting, all the great work, and I'm gonna talk more about that when we get down to inquiries, but this sums up all the great work that all our people do, whether it's security or pest control and community safety. I think to me, this shows the totality of all the work that our people do, and that's my way of summing it up. Chair, they're there. I do have more comments when we get down to the 2 that are there for approval, but are there any questions or comments on any of the?
All right, so you'll move it, Mayor Grantham, you'll move it.
I will, Chair.
Seconder. Gary will second it, so now we'll open it up for any questions or comments on those reports. Okay, I just wanted to say, the ones that I found the KPI review really interesting as it pertains to community safety and the pest control. I think those are things that we said, look, we want to measure that stuff. This is, I think, probably one of the first times we've had a fulsome sort of KPI on those things, at least that I can recall. Am I right about that?
For pest control, we're sort of in probably our 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
But it's like now you can see trends, now
Right.
you can see the patterns and ask better questions as we work through.
Yeah.
And community safety, we've been working with community safety manager he's been here for about a year, and the KPIs keep trending. Just it's valuable to sort of look at it from that lens.
Right.
It's really
So,
powerful.
I think it's something we asked for, and it's something that is important. So we did spend some time on that at the committee. So we can at least see the trends. I thought the community safety one was interesting. I mean, there's a difference between having the people there to answer the calls. The bigger question is, can you stop the calls? Can you stop those occurrences? And I truly believe that other things we're doing are gonna help us with that. And so ultimately, having good tenants who understand their responsibilities, I think will all help with pest control numbers and the community safety numbers. So we'll see how that goes, I guess, but it'll take time. Am I right about that?
Yeah, for sure it'll take time, and I think one of the measures we really have to add into this is the perception of community safety from our tenants. Because we have the anecdotes and when it's getting better or when it's getting worse and things like that. But I think that also tells us from the tenant's perspective, we're there when we're not. Is it getting better? Are we missing something? So I think that's something we want to bring into this somehow and figure that out in 2025 so that we can sort of get another level of feedback now that we have our level of data. And I think that's we'll see that in the maintenance and pest control world. We'll be starting some surveys by the end of the year on satisfaction, but on community safety, it'd be interesting to add that lens too, because I think we can get lost in our process and forget about some of the important things of the outcome.
So the second part of that I just wanted to ask about is in terms of communication, because a lot of board members at different times have said the good news stories, we have to get them out there. So the KPIs, I assume, are going to be part of the story we tell sort of in the community about how we're doing with these things. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think sort of taking what the numbers we do have now on these areas and sort of highlighting where we're at on them is something we need to do. You'll see some more stuff on our website soon and just sort of coming through. So our focus right now is on the capital and those things, but as we work through the year, we'll keep layering on that.
Great, thanks. Gary had to leave here. He's actually working right now, so he had a call and given his job, when he has a call, he has a call. So he has to leave. So thanks very much. We're still fine in terms of form.
Chair, I'm just gonna interject and I'm glad you mentioned those two reports, the community safety and pest, because you echoed my sentiments about, the stories that are out there in the media, and I was really annoyed. I got a stronger word I'd want to use. The last one about a safety event at a building. I can't remember which one, but when I look at all the work that's presented to us by those two groups and every group, I do get greatly annoyed. I call them the hit pieces that are in the media with the headlines. So I agree with you. We need to find a way to better communicate what we're doing and be more proactive rather than reactive. So I have stronger comments, but I'll just kind of keep them, just put it this way. I get greatly annoyed when I know the work that our folks are doing and not be recognized in the media. It really bothers me. So that's my soapbox for the night, Chair.
I'd love to rule you out of order for using inappropriate language, but
I had a stronger word and I've used it in council a couple of times. I won't use it. It's acceptable in Strathroy.
Anything further? Any questions? No? So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All right. And then we've got two reports under for approval. The smoke-free and tenant insurance policy and the tenant code of conduct. Mayor Grantham, how did you want to deal with that? Do you want just to put them out there? Or do you want to make any comments?
Well, I'm actually Alicia is there, correct?
She is.
I'm gonna ask her to help me because there are a couple ones that they're all important, but the tenant insurance, that's new. I know at county, our social services sent an email to all county councilors alerting them of the need for tenant insurance. That's new, and there might be some effects. And the tenant code of conduct is new. So Alicia, did you just want to comment briefly on both those, the tenant insurance and the code of conduct?
Yeah, absolutely. We have time, so we'll put some on and we'll let you do it. Go ahead.
Through the chair. So for tenant insurance policy, we are planning to implement it after the board's approval. And our approach will be dependent on the tenancy. For all the new tenants, they will be required to have tenant insurance. And for existing tenants, they will be grandfathered under this policy. But we will still actively promote resources to encourage tenants to obtain insurance. We do work with Housing Services Corporation that offers discounted services for tenants in RGI housing. So we'll provide information for tenants about HSC insurance.
Okay.
Any other questions about insurance?
Any questions just on the? Oh, okay,
If not, I'll
go to the tenant code of conduct.
Yeah.
conduct. So the policy that's in the package, this is the existing policy. It's a little bit dated, and so for your approval is to present a revised policy to you by the end of 2025.
Yeah, thanks, Lucy. And I just really did want to point out the tenant insurance, because that's a change, right? It's current tenants are grandfathered in, but for new tenants, that's will be a new expense for them. So just be aware of that. So with that, I think that's it, Chair. If you want to put it for approval first, and we can take the questions.
Yeah, I have a question. It just occurred to me. So if a tenant gets insurance on their property and then there's a fire in their property and it gets damaged, how can we ensure that we have access to those insurance funds? Is it because we'll be aware of the policy and to ask the tenant to make an application, or how will we make sure we get the money from that policy?
So our insurance will work with the tenant's insurance. We will provide all the information that we have about tenant's insurance policy. And they will work on, first of all, helping the tenant with the accommodations temporarily if needed, loss of personal belongings, but then to cover property damage.
Right, so in other words, our insurer will make sure they're accessing the available funds from the tenant's policy. Right, thank you. Anything further?
No.
We need I don't think we've moved and seconded it yet, so you're gonna move those, Mayor Grantham?
Yes, I am.
And second? Sarah will second it, all in favor? All right, thank you very much. So that ends the reports. I just want to say, all of the reports, we had a huge number of reports, great reports, a lot of information. Thanks staff for being here tonight. If we didn't ask questions directly of you, it doesn't mean we haven't, of course, read them and gone through them, and we had a lot more questions at the committee level. So thanks to staff for that. I'm not aware of any presentations, so what we're gonna do now is make a motion to go in camera. So someone will have to move that we go in camera, moved by Hadley, seconded by Greg, all in favor. So why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and do that. And something.
No, thanks, Chair. I covered off. I just have to say I was greatly annoyed by the last Free Press article regarding the event. I can't remember where it was, but I should tell you, the reporter, I've known him since I was 3 years old, and I almost picked up the phone and chewed him out. I just really wish we'd find a way to be more aggressive and proactive in our communication, because it's, as I said, Chair, it's excuse me, it's really not fair to the men and women at Middlesex Housing who work every day. And I'm not on a soap opera, but I just feel that our people are getting kicked around needlessly. And I found the the word public housing in the headline. I found that unfair, because I find it even though that's what it is, it's, it just paints people in the wrong light, especially the residents who live there. So I just rather annoyed. So I thought about going rogue, Chair, and calling the newspaper reporter up myself, but I thought you'd maybe get on my case for doing it. But that was my soap opera for the day.
Go ahead,
Thank you, and through the chair. No, I just wanted to pass along some information. At the audit committee, there's a long discussion about 122 baseline, obviously with that report. Interestingly, as we hired this meeting, Councillor Frank just sent out a nice memo, actually, to her credit about it too, saying that a lot of this, was things that were outside of our control, and it was very much the service manager and the city putting, you know, high needs tenants in. And so what I found interesting with when you look at like Sylvan Street versus Baseline, you can see it's very much night and day, and a lot of councilors acknowledge that, you know, that was a better way of doing tenancy than what happened with Baseline. So there was an acknowledgement on the city side, which I appreciate, that, you know, a lot of issues from the outset that was very much on the selection of tenants. So, you know, lessons learned, hopefully with Sylvan, that was a good one. So hopefully moving forward, we keep that up and have those discussions with the LMCH, so we don't work into that.
That's good. Thank you very much. Anything else on that subject? My only recommendation is do what I do. I don't read the free press or watch TV news. I just don't. I haven't, since I was a counselor before. I just found it very difficult to read things and know that they just, the context was not there at all. But fighting back, the only thing I would say is fighting back against the media is it's a losing battle.
I know that, and I'll remind you, the free press pays a good chunk of my pension, so
Oh, okay.
I need to be careful.
Anything else on new business or inquiries? Thanks for raising that, and thanks for that, Counselor. It's nice to hear that. I was wondering if that would come up actually in the context, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it might come up at council as well, because the audit committee just happened, but I know they had
It may come up on my annual, when I make my annual report and
Yeah.
with benefit. I think it's a very good example though of something that we all know happens, so thank you. All right, so that's it. So we just need a mover and seconder for adjournment. Hadley's happy to second that, or move it. Kathleen will second it, all in favor. Try to make the meetings in March because we're gonna have the presentation from the company that's doing the redevelopment report, so that's gonna be